The Legends of Shika Hallow. It is routinely talked about in the northeast part of South Dakota that the deep, thickly forested ravines of the eastern slope are haunted. This belief can be tracked back to the Dakota Sioux, who once used the area as their primary hunting grounds. One place in particular, now called the Shika Hallow State Park, is thought to be the location of a creation and vengeance story where vicious Native American mythical figures fought. When the first Native Americans visited the location, they named it Shika, meaning evil or bad. Numerous Sioux legends recall mysterious happenings here. The local Dakota believed this to be the reason for the red-tinted water that gushed out of the springs in Shika Hallow. Actually, it was most likely the result of minerals in the water, but still, the legend persists to this day. One can still walk the Trail of Spirits, where supernatural forces are supposedly at work. When whites first stumbled across Shika Hallow and the hills surrounding it, many of the fears of the supernatural were spread from the Dakota to the white settlers. The first white man to make his home near what would one day be called Shika Hallow State Park was named Robert Roy in the 1840s. Finding the location to be ideal due to the abundant game, he soon made his home deep in the ravine. The local Indians thought Roy was crazy for living in an area that they would not dare set foot in, much less make their home. A few years later, an expeditionary force of the U.S. government soldiers from Browns Valley set out to find Mr. Roy with the intent of collecting strategic information on what was then the frontier. It took them a number of days just to get down into the wooded ravine where he lived. After they had visited Roy, the soldiers left, agreeing with the local natives that the man was probably crazy to be living in such a place. As the years passed, more and more whites settled in the area, and the mythical stories about the Shika Hallow only grew. It was later believed that some sort of beast or a Bigfoot-type man inhabited these dense woods. This fear came to a boiling point when several people disappeared at Shika Hallow in the 1970s. Of the many people who joined the hunt looking for the missing person, several who participated openly admitted that they were looking for some sort of beast. Such an idea was supported by recent local sightings of something apparently fitting that description. Others thought that there might just be a bear loose, but of a beast, bear, or missing persons, nothing was found. Some parts of Shika Hallow, nearby Long Hollow, and other area ravines contain a form of quicksand due to the numerous springs. Additionally, there are vast stretches of densely forested gullies and harbor ravines that drop several hundred vertical feet. It is little wonder why mythical stories persist to this day. Over the years, nobody would live in Shika Hallow, which is one of the primary reasons that it is a natural preserve and state park today. Rising from the plains, these rugged, timber-covered hills and ravines were left after the last glacier receded less than 20,000 years ago. The Indians called them Pahatanka, or Great Hills. Through the park runs a natural recreation trail called the Trail of Spirits, and along this path you'll see gurgling reddish bogs, the very same ones that the Sioux once thought were sprouting the blood and flesh of their ancestors. Swamp gas and stumps glow in the dark, and small waterfalls are heard echoing as trapped air escapes. It is very easy to understand why these anomalies of Mother Nature are held in awe by ancient Indian tribes and subject of many legends. For those who have been brave enough to stay a night in the park, many have reported hearing voices and chanting, the sounds of cries and war whoops, and even a few reported sightings of ghostly Indian braves. Walking Sam. The Pine Ridge Indian Reservation has had an alarmingly high suicide rate among their youth, and it's believed that an urban legend is responsible. The land is being stalked by an evil ancient entity that takes on the form of Walking Sam. Like the tall man, Slenderman, and the long-feared Stickmen, this creature feeds on the living, infecting their minds and altering their thoughts. In the case of Walking Sam, his evil binding is collecting the souls of suicides so he doesn't have to wander the earth alone. He convinces the already lost, depressed, or hormonal adolescents that they aren't worthy of life, and that they should just end it. He stands around 7 feet tall, has no mouth, and has gangly limbs. His arms are outstretched. You can see the bodies of Lakota men and women hanging from them. Since December of 2014, Pine Ridge has had 103 suicide attempts, with 9 people succeeding. The youngest was only 12 and the oldest was just 24. There have been attempts at mass suicides on the grounds. Thankfully, the church leader, Pastor John Two Bowls, discovered and prevented one of these plans from being carried out. He and a few other adults found a group of teenagers with nooses already hanging from trees. Another group of teens, all female, tried to carry out a similar plan but were stopped in time. Why are they doing it? Tribe leaders, clergymen, local mental health professionals, and law enforcement are scratching their heads. What, if not some great evil, is infecting the minds of so many young people in Pine Ridge? Is it poverty? Is it abuse? Or is it the creature that the kids call Walking Sam? Hooky Jack. On 7th Street in downtown Rapid City stands a 3-story building that is said to be haunted by a ghost who has hooks for hands. The tale surrounding Hooky Jack, whose real name was John Leary, is that he lost both arms and one eye in a mining explosion in the 1800s. His arms were then replaced by hooks. After the accident, he'd become a police officer for Rapid City, but after being on the police force for 41 years, misfortune had struck. In November 1926, he was hit and killed by a car in downtown Rapid City. The building, formerly Hooky Jack's restaurant and Fanny McGee's nightclub, is now home to the Sports Rock Tavern, and reportedly has had some ghostly occurrences with the former police officer. According to the legend, Hooky Jack used to live on the 3rd floor of that building, a place some employees won't even go to during the day, and a place some say he had never left. Security camera footage has shown floating orbs and flashing lights on some nights when no one is in the building. Customers and employees say they see billiard balls move on their own and hear footsteps on the floor above them. chairs and tables seem to move on their own. And when employees are alone at night, voices can occasionally be heard. Other reports of Jack's presence come from bartenders, who have said that they have seen apparitions out of the corner of their eyes settle up to the bar for a drink. All of this is unconfirmed, and yet no one will ever know. Spooky Road. You know a road must be creepy when locals have renamed it to Spooky Road. This rural road outside of Brandon, South Dakota, has a notorious past that earned it its name. Other than the many other urban legends and hauntings that must have taken place on this road, it can also be considered just plain spooky to drive down. In the summer, many people think of it more as a scenic drive, and it certainly is during the day. At night, in the fall and winter months, the tunnel of trees and winding roads are a bit more unnerving when you can't see what's around the bend. Urban legends surrounding this road include a theory that if you drive one way on it, you will cross 5 bridges, but on the way back, only cross 4. Legend has it that people have been hung from some of these bridges. It isn't unheard of to feel like you're being watched when crossing them. You may even see eyes peering at you from the dark. Other stories have been told of ghastly apparitions appearing and disappearing on the road, or can be seen hanging from the trees at night. This road has creeped out people of all ages for decades, and it is both feared and loved by locals. The Hill of Little Devils. The local Indians were terrified of the hill and would not venture anywhere near it, essentially considering it to be a taboo. They believed that just a few decades earlier, sometime in the mid-18th century, a band of several hundred Indian warriors who had attacked the inhabitants of the mound were massacred by little people who wielded magical arrows. The Indian band attempted to remove the presence of the already hated little folk, who had dwelt there for many years and were long perceived to be evil. Due to extensive damming of the Missouri River, the summit of the Spirit Mound is one of the few precise places where historians know Lewis and Clark have stood in the exact location. The prairies surrounding the Spirit Mound have been planted with indigenous prairie grasses in an attempt to restore the locale to its previous splendor. The area features an almost phenomenal array of insect life, a fact which was noted by Lewis and Clark in their log over 200 years ago, and can reasonably be described as extremely scenic and beautiful. There is a trail about half a mile in length that leads up to the summit and back down via a slightly different path. The trail crosses Whitestone Creek, which passes through the site. And those were some South Dakota urban legends. I am probably going to end up trying to redo this video sometime in the future because I am still ill. While I was editing, I could hear like my voice going off a little bit, and I really wanted to get a video out for you ghouls. So I apologize if my messed up throat and voice isn't throwing you off. I apologize. But yeah, at least I'm at the tail end of this sickness, so Monday's video should be magnifique. But as always, ghouls, the last video will be on the top left, the next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.